Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my project life spread for the week of July 31st through August 6th, 2023, and I am working with the Grow Quarterly Scrapbook Kit from Ali Edwards. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this week I'm working with the Grow Quarterly Scrapbook Kit from Ali Edwards, and I already planned out this page. In case you missed it, over on the Ali Edwards blog, once a quarter, I share a planning process post using the Quarterly Scrapbook Kit. These are very similar to what I do in the Story Kit classrooms for each Story Kit. So if you like that process, that is something that you do get if you subscribe to the Story Kits. But for the Quarterly Scrapbook Kits, I provide this free. It's over on the Ali Edwards blog. And here is kind of what I had planned out using the Grow Quarterly Kit. So far, I have done just this one, which I need to go ahead and check off. And I recently shared that over on my Instagram. So if you want to see how that page turned out, I shared that there. I will share a process video for one of these spreads over on the Ali Edwards blog at some point, but I probably not until maybe next month. But for now, I'm going to be doing this project life spread. So here is what my initial plan was. And if you want to hear me talk through that as I'm planning it, that is in that video over on that blog post, which I will link down below this video. So my plan for this one was I took the two page protectors that have the 4x6 spots, and my plan is to use this paper, which has 3 journaling spots, and cut these down and put these into these 4x6 spots to tell 3 stories this week. I have a number of photos from the week. I'm just going to kind of lay them out initially to get an idea of like how many photos I have and how many pockets I have left to fill. But I pretty much printed photos for most of my pockets here. I also have one more photo that I'm keeping off screen because I need to blur it. But then I also have this piece of ephemera, which is the map directory. So one day this week, I went on a back to school shopping trip to the Woodbury Common outlets, which are about an hour and a half from where I live. And it's a huge outlet shopping center that I have gone to with one of my best friends and her daughter, who is a year ahead of my daughter in school. And we haven't gone every year, but we've gone pretty frequently over the past few years. And we took this photo this year, and I went back and got the photo from the first time we went and did this, because these together I think are super fun, because my daughter was about to be a freshman in high school and her daughter was about to be a sophomore in high school the first time we went, which is this photo. And then this year they were each about to be that same thing, a freshman and a sophomore, but this time in college, which I think is super fun just to see the comparison and the growth over the years. And apparently I always just wear gray t-shirts. But I am going to cut down this map directory and just pull a piece of it for a 3x4 card. You obviously won't be able to read the whole map, but that doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to get a snippet of it, which I think will just be fun to have in a pocket. So I'm just going to kind of crop this down. Let me see here. I'm just cropping it in like a random spot, and then I will end up just adhering this onto a piece of scratch cardstock so that because it's so flimsy, I could just slip it in the pocket like this, but I think if I adhere it down, that will help a little bit because it has these like creases. I had to fold it to put it in my bag. So I have that. I do have these 2 photos from a hike, which is going to be one of my stories this week. Okay, so because I have these as my story spots for this week, I am going to crop them out and tell 3 stories. So one is going to be about the shopping trip, one is going to be about a hike I went on, and the third one I'm just going to do like bullet points of stories from this week. So I do need to crop down the papers and figure out kind of how I'm going to do my filler and everything. So I have this really gorgeous paper from the kit that I'm going to crop to a 4x6 card. If you're not familiar with these kits, they don't come with any pocket page cards. These are purely scrapbook kits. So they are like traditional scrapbook kits with 12 by 12 papers and some smaller papers that are slightly larger than 6 by 8. And they have embellishments. So you can use them just to create traditional scrapbooking pages, but I love to use them in Project Life in addition to making traditional scrapbook pages. So this one right here is a 12 by 12, but it has these solid color blocks. And so what I'm gonna do is crop these down to 4 by 6 and use them as my backgrounds for these journaling spots. So I am gonna have to hand cut those out. So I will probably put you guys on fast forward for that piece. But I just want to get this kind of cropped down first. Now I do also have a yellow one. So this has 4 colors and this only has 3. So I'm trying to decide, and I do also have these that I'm going to save for another project. And I don't need 4 here, but I just wanted to crop them down because here's my idea. I'm going to cut these out and layer them on. I'm not sure if I want to do like green on green, pink on pink, blue on blue, or if I want to mix them up. So I'm going to try that out once I cut it out. And then whatever color is left, I'm going to make a 3 by 4 and put this flower on it as a filler card. And that is going to be my full spread because I do have one additional photo that, like I said, that I'm keeping off of camera, which will be that last spot. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward, rearrange everything, figure out exactly how I want it to go, and get this page put together. Okay, so the first step for me is to cut these out. And I'm just going to use my paper trimmer to cut them down around like the straight lines. And then I'm going to use my scissors to get it closer to the edge and do the curves because these do have rounded corners on them. And I think I do end up kind of cutting around most of the sides just to get it like where I want it lined up. I'm not too worried about it being perfectly straight. What I want more is just to have a little bit of the white showing around the edges. And you can see I only cut the 3 sides, and that's because these don't fit fully on the page. So I'm gonna have to crop some of them off, which is totally fine. I like the way it looks with it going off the page rather than a full rounded rectangle. I tried them doing, on the same colors, and I ended up deciding I wanted to mix up the colors, mostly because the pink was too similar to the background. So even though like the green had some contrast between the light green and the dark green, the pinks were like the same pink. So I thought it looked better mixing them up. So I ended up mixing them up and then putting the flower onto the pink one because I did like that with the red and pink next to each other. The flower doesn't fit perfectly on the card, so I purposely put it off the edge and trimmed it down and then added some tiny attacher staples for texture. They're not necessary to hold it on because you saw I did use rolling adhesive, but I like the way that they look. And then I cropped down some white scratch paper or cardstock that was just like a scrap of cardstock so I could put a piece of the map onto that to fit in that last 3 by 4 pocket. This piece of the map is too small to really see much about what is going on in the map, but I like that it's just an added piece of ephemera from the day. I used a label sticker from my stash that is from Kelly Perky Shop. I have quite a few of these older ones, and I like to use them for the title card there. You saw that I had cropped that down from one of the 6 by 8 papers as well. And because that pattern paper was so busy, I liked just the simplicity of adding a label sticker and the dates and nothing else. I'm moving on to my journaling now. So these journaling spots are numbered. There's a 1, a 2, and a 3, and I totally spaced on that. I wasn't even paying attention. So I don't end up putting them on the page in the order of the numbers, but that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. These stories aren't necessarily in an order. So this one I ended up journaling all about my hike. So if you're going to do something like this with this paper, I would suggest choosing a week where you have at least one story where the title makes sense. So these say beautiful growth on it, and they say identifying pieces of the story to celebrate. So you could be very literal with this and only look for stories that are about growth. But because I wanted to tell all the stories of my week, I wanted to just make sure that there was at least something related to growth, right? So the first one, the one that I'm journaling on right now, which actually is the number one, I am journaling about the shopping trip that I took. So this week I went on this shopping trip with my daughter. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm documenting the growth of my daughter and my friend's daughter through the years of this tradition of shopping. And I pulled in that photo that was from 4 years ago to put next to the photo from this week. And I really love seeing them next to each other. And I love the ability to kind of journal about our shopping trip from the perspective of growth. And I liked that that was a jumping off point that I would not have done but for this kit. The one about the hike isn't so much about growth, but because we're in nature, I feel like everything in nature is growing. So I think that it worked. And then the final one, I'm just going to do some bullet points from the week. I don't really think any of them are very specifically about growth, but there's just so much growth in life in general that I feel like it works. And I'm happy to have this theme with one of the stories being very on point and the rest of them just being loosely matching. So I went over to my stash and got an assortment of word phrase strips in different colors. This is something I love to do in Project Life because I have so many word phrase strips in my stash and they're just a great way to add some embellishments. So because I have so many in my stash, it's very easy to find a few colors that match. So what I ended up doing was adding them in stacks of 3 on some of my photos and pairing them with the chipboard flowers from the kit. I went into my stash of chipboard there, and you can see in my chipboard organization video, which I will link up at the eye, how I do my chipboard organization where I have them by theme. So what I did was I pulled out the ones that were food related and found one that had a fork and a spoon on it to add onto that plate of food, which was a new recipe that I had tried this week, and I thought it came out very pretty, so I wanted to include it in my spread. I'm going back to doing the word phrase strips. I do this word phrase strip sentiment or arrangement, embellishment cluster on 4 of the cards, 3 photos, and 1 on my picture of the map there or piece of ephemera. And then I add the flowers with them. And then I added a chipboard piece on 2 of the photos. I don't think I've done one yet. I'm sorry that the part of my spread is off the screen, but you will see it as I'm working on it and when it's done. I just want to make sure that the part that I'm working on is in the camera, and there's just not a ton of space in the camera unless I zoom out so much, and then I'm afraid you won't see what I'm working on. So I'm working on right now this 3rd journaling card. So off camera, I have my Hobonichi cousin, which if you are curious more about how I use that, you can see that. I will link that up at the eye as well. But I use my Hobonichi cousin to plan and journal, but I also write down notes about what happened during the week, so I have it as a reference for when I go back to work on Project Life because I'm not doing these projects in real time. So on this journaling card here, I am adding bullet points using a Zig dot marker, and I have those linked in the description box below if you are interested in those, and my pen. So what I've been doing lately is doing the dots for bullet points and doing 2 little carrots with my pen inside of them to create a bullet point list, and I really like the way that looks. And this was a good way to collect a variety of stories on one journaling card rather than having 3 large stories. I had the ability to tell a bunch of small ones on this card, which is another great way to use these larger journaling spots. I think that pretty much wrapped up my spread, so I am going ahead and sliding everything into the pocket. Oh, I did add that other chipboard piece onto this photo up here. You can see, and that one was from, I think it was my remember organizing. In my chipboard organization, I have a category for looking back or remember. So I was able to pull something out of there to work on that photo where I was comparing this year with 4 years ago. I have to trim some of these photos and cards down just to make sure they fit in the pockets perfectly. But otherwise, this spread is coming together. It's very simple, but I love that when I'm working with a kit that I don't really have that much that I need to do to think about. I can pretty much follow a formula and get the spread done. Here's a look at that finished spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thank you. Bye.